Where we dock next, no one knows. Where we dock next, no one knows. Generally, that's what happens when you come to this pirate ship filled with some of the greatest and worst video games of all shapes and sizes from the past 50 or so years. Welcome to the Gaming Galleon. I am Cap'n Raz, your host for the next hour. And generally, it's very hard to determine where we could be. We could find ourselves in some sort of dank, hollow, satanic area in Soul Reaver 2. We could find ourselves speeding down a highway, blowing apart the oncoming traffic in Spy Hunter. We could find ourselves paired up against the Blazers as the Chicago Bulls in Bulls versus Blazers. We never know where we're going to end up. But this is one of those rare shows where it's a little easier to determine. Because, as you may or may not know, it is February when we tape this voyage. And in February, things are a little different around here on the Gaming Galleon. Because I myself go on a very harrowing pilgrimage for 28 days. From the very first minute of the bleak, frigid month of February to the very final minute of the month, I stave off all of the wonderful games we have. Karate for the Atari. Resident Evil 5 for the PlayStation 4. Project Eden for the PlayStation 2. Bratz for the GameCube. They all go away. Why? To remind myself of a simpler time. A time when I didn't have a treasure trove of worlds to explore. A time when money was scarce and video games were even more scarce. Because there was a time when they simply weren't around. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world without video games? Well, I can't say I ever lived in that time. But I did live pretty much right at the dawn of it. Specifically the Nintendo Entertainment System, 1985. Sure, the Atari was around, but I have to admit, Star Wars characters were a little more interesting to play around in a sandbox than whiling away the hours in the Atari 2600. It wasn't until the Nintendo that I understood that these were more than just distractions. These were other worlds to explore, and even better, to save. But back then, they were very hard to find. There were only so many games in your bedroom, in the living room, in your neighborhood. And because of that, even the bad ones got a little more attention than they would have if they were where we are today, where an endless stream of video games are at our fingertips. So every February, I take it upon myself to dig into the many treasure troves that we have uncovered through skullduggery over the years. I take one of the lots that were found in a pawn shop or a thrift store. Games not picked by me, but from someone long ago who let those games go. And I recovered them. I look at the lot and I begin to choose the most well-rounded collection of 12 that I can find in said lot. Is there a racing game? Only one? It's in. Is there a fighting game? Only one? It's in. Is there a role-playing game? Well, there's 2 role-playing games. Well, now we have some tough decisions to make. So, after months and months of poring through the hold, and the manifest, and our many voyages of old, I came across one lot that I thought would be fascinating enough to hold my attention for the 28 frigid days in February. Strangely enough, some people, maybe even you out there, find this interesting enough to know about. So, I have to take it upon myself to communicate this information, and I generally do that a month before February begins. At least I tell you what console is being featured. Because generally it's not a mix of consoles, generally it's one. But I made a little wrinkle this year and told people that the 12 games that would be featured in the Dirty Dozen this year would be Game Boy games that have color in them. Now, of course, there's the Game Boy Color. We have one right here. Filthy, dirty. The Game Boy Color. And many people thought, oh, of course, 12 Game Boy Color games. But there were those savvy enough to think, that Captain Raz, he can't be trusted. Are they really just Game Boy Color games? Couldn't original Game Boy games be considered color? They're brown and green. What about Game Boy Advance games? Of course. It's very possible that Game Boy Advance could be involved. After all, these games are in color. Well, a few days before February 1st, a weekend, I finally revealed the roster. And half of them were Game Boy Color games, and half of them were Game Boy Advance. Hats off to you if you were smart enough to question that little riddle. Let's go through the lot, shall we? What games were we stuck with for the month? We'll go through them all, and the final one is the game we will be playing today, and is the inspiration for where the ship sits today. But we'll get to that soon. Wario 3 for the Game Boy Color. I picked this because it was a platformer, but it was so much more. This is almost like Metroid, without the science fiction. Devilishly deep, devilishly hard to play, and you could almost spend a month playing this one alone. Incredible stuff. The Grinch for the Game Boy Color. A game fascinating enough for me personally that we did a Christmas voyage and took the old boat out to Whoville to steal some presents and some candy from some kids. Trying our best not to get caught, because of course, if you see a 6-foot-tall, hairy biped, the first thing you want to do is chase after it and hug it until its heart grows 3 sizes. A fascinating game, devilishly difficult, and quite score-based. Tony Hawk Underground 2. Loads and loads of content from 2 different play modes, a free roaming mode, to an arcade mode, to a customizing your board. Even if you just want to tool around and work on practicing, you could very well play this for weeks. Pretty nice to have this one in the situation, a little extreme, sporting. Tony Hawk Underground 2. Not bad at all. The soundtrack, well, that's a little more controversial. Mario Tennis. Another game with dripping with content. Not only is there a very easy to pick up, difficult to master arcadey exhibition mode, where you can play against a very small but notable Nintendo cast. You can also work your way through a very sizable tennis academy simulation that features everything from training machines to a full-on climactic island tournament. I didn't play much of the tournament. I simply had too many other things on my plate. A very ripped up copy, but again, we have to go with what we had in the lot. Very mysterious as to what this game could be. The trained eye may notice the red, purple, and blue background and be able to think, oh, this must be a Spyro game. Spyro 2, Season of Flame. A sugary sweet, isometric collectathon certainly earns its place in the roster, because aside from Wario, it's the only real platformer in the dozen this year. Biggest complaint is there's a very jarring camera involved, but if you're looking to just turn your brain off and go into a non-threatening world, Spyro's where you're going to want to go. Every year, there is one exception in the dozen. One genre, no matter what, even if it's not in a lot, has to be represented. Every year. And this year is no exception. If there is no pinball game in the lot that I choose, then I must go into the vast library of the console being featured in the season and choose one. It was a pretty foregone conclusion when Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color were involved that there would only be one true pinball game to pick. Was it Kirby Pinball? No. Was it Pinball Fantasies? No. Was it Pokemon Pinball? I'm afraid not. Was it Little Mermaid 2 Pinball? Nada. It was Sega's Pinball of the Dead. Cobblestone and Victorian designed pinball with disgusting, bloodied zombies lurking across the table. A very educational game from what I've seen of the people brave enough to play the dozen this year. What's Field Times 2? What's a Super Kickback? What in God's name is a Superjet? A lot of lessons learned this month. Likely the most controversial title and the most intimidating in the lot for the Game Boy Color was Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Duel Stories. A collectible, head-to-head combat card game. Many shrugged this one off almost instantly. I have to say, I went in optimistically with this one and ended up enjoying it quite a bit as the season went on. It's always good to have a turn-based game if you only have 12 games in a roster. Something you don't have to continually perform. You can put it down and think through your moves. And there weren't many like that in the roster this year. So this, while intimidating, was certainly a hill worth climbing for me personally. Road Rash. Always nice to have a racing game in the lot. And here we have it. Riding down the highways of Vermont, Arizona, Alaska, Tennessee, and one more. It escapes me. Somewhere in America. Oh, Honolulu, Hawaii. That's it. Speeding down the highway, doing your best to outrun the cops, doing your best to stay out of the incoming lane, because there is oncoming traffic, and of course, trying to beat the snot out of any of the other competitors on the crotch rockets that you are speeding illegally across the various highways. Pretty fun stuff. The role-playing game for the season, very surprising, because we generally have role-playing games dripping with Western influence. This year, the role-playing representative came from Dragon Ball, The Legacy of Goku 2. A fascinating story. If you haven't seen the cartoon, this is all the better, because really, the game is filled with fun characters, pretty exciting dialogue, and some twists in the story along the way. For the most part, it's an action RPG. You're going to be going through jungles, fighting snakes, and tigers, and guys with bazookas, not to mention some pretty rough and trained high-tech androids to save the world. Pretty fun stuff. I'd say that was probably the game I had in my Game Boy Advance over the month the most, because it's easy to just get in, open it up, get some experience, beat up some guys, do a little training, and then get out. Another genre we've never seen in our 4 years of doing a dozen, Deja Vu 2, kind of a cult favorite among the few brave souls who decided to give the roster a shot this year. You play a detective named Ace Harding, who's a little down in his luck. There's a briefcase of money missing, and you have been tasked by the goon who owns it to track it down before you get cement shoes. Still pictures, lots of text, inventory, always having to think outside of the box. Deja Vu 1 and 2, Ace Harding. Specifically Deja Vu 2. I decided to ignore Deja Vu 1 because it is a Nintendo game. Deja Vu 2, on the other hand, if you didn't know, this is the only release to console that this game ever saw. So, I had to pick one or the other. We can't have 13 games in the roster. Deja Vu 2 made the cut. A mysteriously unlabeled... we gotta go with whatever we find in the pawn shop. A mysteriously unlabeled game, which I was shocked to find out is a very ambitious port of Tekken, the very popular arcade fighter that's seen many releases and sequels over the decades, Tekken Advance. There are 10 characters to choose from and various modes to play. A lot of people didn't think much from the Game Boy when they first heard about this one, but they were shockingly surprised at the speed and the depth that Namco was able to smash in to this little piece of plastic. Always nice to be able to put in something quick and dirty, maybe do a little practicing in a roster if you're stuck with 12 games for a month. Let's see, I think that's it. So what did we have? Racing, adventure, role-playing, platforming, even a little gambling, if you dug deep enough. So what's left? Action. Action of the highest quality. We are sitting docked directly on top of one of the buildings overlooking Times Square, New York, to celebrate an amazing franchise and hands down my favorite game from the roster. A game that I played till I was blue in the face over the month and let so many other adventures that we just went through fall to the wayside. My hat's off to this game. It's really something special. Today we'll be playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by Konami for the Game Boy Advance. Obviously, a franchise that holds a large pedigree in the video game and cartooning community, but somehow this particular title, one that someone bought long ago and left at a pawn shop, does not get a lot of press about. And after playing it for a month, I scratch my head and I ask why. It's truly incredible. So, let's play a little bit of TMNT. We're not going to see much of it, because boy oh boy are we going to go over in the booty segment. There's so much in there, I cannot imagine us getting in and getting it done in an hour. We will probably have to stop. It's serious business in there. We'll play some Turtles, hit the booty segment at the bottom of the hour, play a little more Turtles, and then at the end, we've got some announcements to make. All right? We'll hit the mailbag. All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's get started. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Game Boy Advance. We are going to be following the adventures of Raphael, and boy, we'd better get started. All right. There's Raph. I'll give you a little audio here. There you go. Okay. This is 4X, and we're going to go all the way through, if you don't mind, okay? Trust me. I've been playing this for a month. So if you think we're going to need to take our time with this, it'll be over in a flash. And the next thing you know, we're going to be hitting the booty segment, all right? We're going to do acts 1 and 2. And then we'll open up the chest. Let's get started. Let me give you a little exposition on Raphael's tale. It all starts out with him getting in a fight, as usual, in the sewers with his brothers, and then he bolts out of there into the night, and he sees someone getting mugged. As he's leaving the sewer on the TV, the reporter, I'm not sure if it's April, I don't think so, but the news is reporting on a mysterious hockey-masked figure stalking the streets of New York at night. Let's join up and try and help Raphael take down some toughs in Act 1. We're not watching the cutscene, that's boring, trust me, I just got you up. So, 2 buttons, attack and jump. If you've ever played the arcade game, you're gonna feel like, I know this baby, this should be no problem. And then you're gonna start feeling like the turtle is not doing everything that you're telling him to do. You're gonna think to yourself, I played Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo. I've played Turtles in Time for the arcade. I've played Turtles the Hyperstone Heist for the Genesis. I should have everything I need to get this done. Well, they do think something pretty fascinating here. they give you two different ways to dash in this. You can double dash, like you would in, say, a Streets of Rage. Woo! That was close. Or you can walk a couple steps. Oh. And your turtle will walk. Will start running toward your opponent. That tripped a lot of people up when they first played this, and they thought the game was broken. But that's the beautiful thing about the dozen. It trains you to learn the nuances that these developers put in years ago and may have been lost to the ages. Turtles and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Game Boy Advance, no exception, because try as people might have during the season, no one could find an instruction manual to this game. It's not out there. In the world of information, no one could find it. No one has scanned this into the internet. And no one, certainly not me, bothered to buy a copy of it from some online vendor. So, how did we learn this game? We learned it by playing over and over, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, throughout the season. And since that, during that time, I learned that this is certainly not a game to underestimate. It's been pretty incredible. Now we're following Raphael as he takes out street toughs on the streets of New York in a 4-act adventure. And each of the turtles in this game all have their own adventure. And each one of them very in line with the Turtles world. Very well representative. This game was made in 2003, which is a Turtles series that many of us who grew up with NES or the arcade Turtles would maybe turn our nose up at. Because we thought, well, these aren't our Turtles. I don't know these guys. This is like some weird rehash. I never watched this series. This isn't my Turtles, so why should I care? Well, it's completely natural to feel that way if you've never played this before. But I gotta tell you, as far as hitting the boxes of the things we loved about the Turtles, their personality, the environments, the various enemies that they fought, most of them are here. And on top of it, there's a lot of surprises along the way. And we'll see that as we get into Raphael's Act 2, 3, and 4. Make a pretty short work of the Turtles here. Of the Purple Dragons, I should say. Whew. Pretty nice backgrounds here. I'll use a buzzword around retro players and say there's some parallax scrolling. But for me, it really came down to the fighting in this. It was very, very on point once you got it down. And I really like how varied the gangs are. And for time, I decided to play on normal. There is a hard difficulty, which I managed to play all the way through during the season. And if you play on hard, these guys are pretty good about waiting for an opening and going as a group. Alright, that's the end of Act 1. Raphael is able to take out the purple dragons, but as he continues... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Get out of here. As he continues to make his patrols, he comes across that hockey-wearing vigilante. They have words. The man in the hockey mask pulls out a hockey stick and outside of a pizzeria in the dead of night, the two decide to test each other's mettle. Oh! And it is moments like this that make me think, wow, this game's pretty cool. The fact that you get to fight one-on-one with Casey Jones, this is something that I believe happened in the original movie. Raphael and Casey Jones, I think they fought each other. I could be wrong about that, but it makes perfect sense. The hot-headed Raphael and the out for blood and justice Casey Jones taking a minute, finding each other, and not seeing eye to eye almost immediately. Oh, he threw a bat at me. Rough. Oh, boy. And so the game has all kinds of really neat instances like this that are very, in my opinion, very worthy of the source material. Not a lot of games let you fight Casey Jones as Raphael like that. Alright, that's it for now. Okay? Was it quick? Yeah, because, trust me, we got a lot going on back at the ship, alright? Trust me. Trust me. Let's hit the booty, alright? Alright, how are we doing on time? Let's see. I think we're 24 minutes in. So we got about 35 minutes left. Okay? We're going to need it. We're going to need it. Alright? Because this is a pretty crazy lot. So, we've got lots and lots of video games on the pirate ship. But what we don't have a lot of are board games. Why? Because we don't want them to get wet. We found some pretty amazing board games out there over the years. But to have those, because what happens is these games just get everywhere. I hate to tell you. And even carts, if you get them wet, you know, you give them a couple weeks, they'll be fine. All right? Board games, there's no coming back if you get them wet. So, I worked out this little deal with my sister. She's into board games. I said, look, I'm finding amazing games out there at thrift stores all the time. If you take the board games, I'll grab them. She was in. So over the years, we've amassed quite a board game library as a result. And you know, when you have as much cool stuff as we have, things fall through the cracks. But what doesn't fall through the cracks is your memory. And you start to think, you know what I haven't seen around for a while? This or that. You'll look around for it. You'll try and take stock. And you just never find it ever again. Well, look. Just look at what my darling sister found among these stacks of board games when she was reorganizing that wondrous collection. Pirateology, the game. Looks pretty neat, doesn't it? Well, you play a pirate, and there are miniatures. There's even a very fetching plastic skull filled with gems that goes on the board. This is the kind of thing that at a thrift store you would pick up instantly. And me, obviously being kind of partial to the maritime life, I tried to play it many years ago with someone, and it was one of the most maddening board game experiences I ever had. Because you see, this is one of those games that's based off of a series of books. And when you base a game off of a franchise, you're not necessarily worried about making an airtight, balanced experience. This is no exception. This game was full of vagaries and gray areas, and you even get to a point where you're not even sure how to win. It was such a terrible, terrible game that I threw it out. But my beloved at the time, in a time where we were moving, apparently pulled out most of the innards of this game and used it as storage. Storage for some very, very sought after items. Things I'd been looking for years. Now, my sister opened this, and when she discovered what was inside, sent me a picture and said, "Are you missing this stuff?" And I said, "Yes!" I have not opened it since, but I know a couple of gems in here are going to make you drop. I will also add that as far as I know, there are no actual video games in here. But don't make you think. Don't make that information let you mistaken this for anything less than a treasure for collectors. There's some incredible stuff in here, from what I remember. But there's a lot in here I don't remember. And it is very heavy. I can't imagine we're going to be able to get through all this. Whew. Let's get started. Check this out. Well, looks like there's a couple of boxes in there. And if I remember correctly, there's something in the boxes. Let's take out one. How appropriate. The Legacy of the Wizard. I remember getting this for $5 at a pawn shop. And I thought I'd lost it. And that was terrible because The Legacy of the Wizard was one of the first games in the very first Dirty Dozen. So this has some extra significance to me as a result. But I had thought we had lost this. Apparently, it was stuck, hidden away in that pirate box all these years. So what's inside? I don't know. Is it the game? I'm not exactly sure. It could be. Let's see. It appears to be. Legacy of the Wizard with the instruction manual. There you have it. Pretty fascinating stuff. To have a boxed copy of one of the original dozen games. That's serious business. Wow. Legacy of the Wizard. Pretty neat. Alright. What's next here? Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right? Oh boy. I remember getting this one, also at a thrift store many years ago. The biggest thing I remember about this one was there was a whole bunch of these that day, but this was in a far simpler time. And I remember there was even Home Improvement for the Super Nintendo there, boxed, which if you don't know anything about that game, is very hard to find and expensive today. The instruction manuals for Home Improvement for the Super Nintendo, probably the most exciting thing about it, because if you open up the instruction manual to Home Improvement for the Nintendo Entertainment System, it simply says on the inside, real men don't use instructions. Can't believe we didn't pick that one up. But we did pick this one up. Basically because I knew Natsume made it. Kind of a Natsume fan. But this is far too heavy. Far too heavy to just have a Super Nintendo game in it. And an instruction manual. Let's take a look. Paperwork. And I'm pretty sure I remember what kind of paperwork it is. Wow. It is a boatload of instruction manuals. Let's go through them. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Mega Man 02. Wow, look at this. Whoa. Hideo Kojima. Boktai. The sun is in your hand. Wow. You guys know anything about Boktai? This was a game put out by the guy who made Metal Gear Solid. This was the next game he made after Metal Gear Solid. For the Game Boy Advance. Who would have thought? The guy decides to make a game about vampire hunters. A vampire hunter. And you need light to power your gun. To kill and bring vampires out of tombs. How do you power your gun? With sunlight. Where do you get sunlight? The actual sun! The Game Boy Advance cartridge for Boktai actually had a sensor that would read if you were in direct sunlight or not. And you had to be in direct sunlight to have your character charge its weapon. Incredible. We got some Super Nintendo manuals here. Super Mario World. The Super Nintendo manual for the console. Super Mario All-Stars. Nickelodeon Guts. Super Mario Kart. This one's looking a little weathered. And a second Super Mario World. Super Mario All-Stars. I think these other ones, they look to be like Nintendo 64. Oh boy, we're running out of room here. All these stupid Game Boy games are in the way. Right, hold on. Ah! Put this over here. Okay. Nintendo 64 manuals. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Yoshi's Story. Mario Kart 64. GameCube manual here. Mario Kart Double Dash. A poster, maybe? An operation card for Wave Race 64. It's got the controls on there. This one looks great. Super Mario 64. What a great manual. Wow. Diddy Kong Racing. Looks like Diddy Kong also had an operation card. Operation card for Mario 64. Mario Kart 64 as well. And then finally for the Super Nintendo, Kirby's Avalanche. Wow. All right, a couple more boxes here. Let's see what else is in here. A beat-up box of Yoshi. Pretty nasty. Can't imagine we spent much on this guy. There is a manual in here. Let's see what it is. It's the manual for Yoshi. Okay. Presumably we probably got all this in one lot at a thrift store. Who knows? Okay. One more box. And this was one... Nope. Oh, wait. Here. We've got some manuals here. Oh, my God. More manuals. Some loosies here. Jeez. Woo! Whoa, whoa, whoa. Alright, I think we're going to get through this. Is this for the Super Nintendo? Tecmo Super Bowl? Is this for the NES? I think it is. Wow. NES, Tecmo Super Bowl. Some Atari stuff here. Video game catalog by Activision. Night Driver. Dodge 'em. Great artwork on these. Video chess. Okay. Super Breakout. Asteroids. Laser Blast. The sad thing is, I think we already have some of these in the hold. One of my favorite Atari box arts here, Warlords. That's a good one. The original Atari 2600 manual. That's pretty neat. Wow. Oh, well, now we have some various other systems here. Nintendo 64. Banjo-Tooie. Original Xbox, Knights of the Old Republic. Super Star Wars. This one looks pretty beat up for the Super Nintendo. Also for the Super Nintendo, the Magical Quest, starring Mickey Mouse. And then finally, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. Weird that there's a couple Xbox manuals in here. Alright. Got one more box, but then there's a whole other pile here. We'll leave the box to the end. Oh my God, this looks like more Super Nintendo? Jeez. I don't even know where we found this stuff. Combat. This is stuff I haven't seen in eight years. Somewhere around there, maybe more. 8 years probably. Air Battle. Maybe more like 9 years. The Atari catalog, we got a couple of these. Okay. Super Nintendo, a really beat up Vegas Stakes. Here's a nice one. This is pretty cool. Super Nintendo Hook. Wow. Okay. I like that game. Did a voyage on that. Let's see. Wheel of Fortune. Monopoly. What's this? Wow, for the Super Nintendo, we have this game. Q*bert 3. That's pretty neat. Wow, now I'm starting to remember where we got these. This was a garage sale lot. That Q*bert 3. That's jogging my memory. Garage sale lot. It was $20. A Super Nintendo second edition, the slim ones, the small guys. And it had a whole host of games, really good stuff. Castlevania was in there. The cream of the crop was Capcom's King of Dragons. Can you imagine finding that at a garage sale on the lawn? I assume all the manuals here were in there with that. If Q*bert 3's, there's no way, no other place on the planet I would have picked that up, except for in that Tupperware, along with the game. Mario Paint, Super R-Type, must have been in there. Street Fighter 2 Turbo must have been in there. Bram Stoker's Dracula. Terrible game. Jack Nicklaus Golf. Here's a good one. Super Nintendo Mystical Ninja. I remember that was in there. Wow. Crazy that I remember where this was. This was like 9 years ago when I got that lot. A really beat up DK2 manual. How is there two of these? Jack Nicklaus and Golf 2? Diddy Kong 3? Donkey Kong Country 3, I mean. Paperboy 2 for the Super Nintendo. Whoa, look at this. Pac-Man Collection. Check this out. Wow. It's beat up, but here she is. Super Castlevania 3? No, 4. I was about to say. Super Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo. Wow. That's cool. That's pretty crazy. And then it looks like a flat box of John Madden. All right, one final box here, then we'll get back to the game. I remember picking this up at a thrift store. It was $10. And if you see what it is, you'd be shocked that I even had to think about it. But this was a different time. I'm glad we picked it up when we did. I've had this game in my collection for years. And I missed the box. I don't know what happened to it. I lost it. I was like, how? How could I lose this box? How? But it's been in this treasure box for all these years. We didn't lose it. For the Nintendo Entertainment System. Dragon Warrior 2. Wow. Look at that. Incredible. Seek allies for your quest. The vast journey lies ahead. That's incredible. It's going to be good to reunite these guys. It's got the manual. What a find. Go back through your board games. Check every nook and cranny. If you think you lost it, it may be out there somewhere. Whew. All right, let's get back to Raphael's adventure, Act 3, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Game Boy Advance. Once Casey and Raphael have tested metal, Casey gets on his motorcycle and starts speeding through the highways of New York City. Raphael decides to go after him. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Game Boy Advance. Alright, here we go. Act 3. Now things get real interesting. After it! So each of the turtles have their own, that another great argument for this game being one of the best Turtles games out there. I'd argue the best one-player Turtles game I've played. Not that there's a lot of one-player Turtles games, but of the ones I've played, this one's certainly up there. But each of the turtles, gadgets are represented. Modes of travel are represented for each and every one of the turtles. And that's pretty amazing stuff. So, now that Casey and Raphael have speeded to their destination. They found out that the leader of the Purple Dragons, they found his hideout. And they decide to band forces to take down the leader of the Purple Dragons. So now instead of fighting against Casey Jones, we're fighting side by side with him. What an excellent climax to Raphael's story. Let's get started. Shoulder to shoulder in the mean streets of New York City. Good tactic. You're playing with... You've got a buddy in the fight. Stick with him. You know what I'm saying? Play zones. Trying my best to keep the dynamite off of Casey. He's watching my back while I dispatch the guy behind him. All of the turtles in this play vastly different from one another. In fact, if you get used to playing one turtle, you may be convinced a second time that there's problems with the controls in this, because you'll be trying to do certain things with one turtle that he simply can't do, but his brother can. Oh, here's the leader. Oh, I think he's got Uzis. Gotta be careful. And of course he's got minions. Oh, man. Casey, back me up. I'm gonna grab some mutagen ooze here. Probably the only complaint about the game is the turtles don't seem to eat pizza. There's no pizza to eat. It's all... Oh. Seems to be to regain their strength in the fight. You're going to be grabbing mutagen. Ah, he knew. He knew exactly what I was up to. You have to be very conscious of not getting caught up fighting one guy. Oh, see? Oh, no! Oh, God. Alright, we can do this. Unbelievable. Can't believe these punks beat me. Typical. Typical. Wouldn't be a voyage if I didn't blow it, right? Remember that time that Raz played Turtles and totally blew it? Remember that adventure? That was my favorite adventure. That was my favorite way that Raz blew it. I love that part. Woo! How are we doing on time? We're way over. We're way over. We don't have time for this. Raz, you were supposed to beat that guy outright. Oh, God! Ah! This is gonna be like the Gone with the Wind of voyages here. There we go. Alright, this time, serious business. Casey, me and you, baby. Oh, man, that guy does not stop until he's hit the edge. Alright, fair enough. I'm leaving myself wide open. There we go. Jugglerific. Mmm! Woo! Nice hit. That's not a nice hit. Oh, we got him. Whew. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We did it! Alright, thank you. That's great. And then they go on and on for like 5 minutes. The dialogue is terrible. Okay? We're playing a Turtles game for the dialogue. So 4 adventures. 1 for each turtle. Again, completely independent of one another. Difficulty on hard can be very challenging. It's going to end up like a Konami game where you're restarting over and over and over. But if you get better, it's like blinking when you go back to normal. It's pretty good stuff. All right. We're already over, but we cannot have a dozen voyage without making some honorable mentions to some brave souls out there. The people out there who have fought alongside me for the 28 days this month. And they kind of go into 3 different tiers. First of all, I want to personally thank Kraid, who was nice enough to build the scoreboard for the Dirty Dozen season, and Bose, who was nice enough to make an army of bot minions to celebrate the people who have dug into these games and competed to try and be the best in each respective game. So Bose, Kraid, truly, my hat's off to you. Thank you. Thank you for making this an exciting and memorable event. Thank you. I want to thank some people who were actually nice enough to broadcast the games and celebrate them. Just to explore them was really cool to watch. It's fun to play these games for 12 months, but just like back in the old days, when you were in the neighborhood with friends, half the fun is seeing them play. And I was lucky enough to see some of my friends out there dig into the dozen on their own and just show them off to other people, friends of theirs. It's Adrian, Punkin Pirate, Azure Kite, all the way out on the other side of the sea. Wake and Play, down in Florida. It's Adrian on the East Coast. Punkin, I believe, is in the Southwest. So people from all over, miles apart, all sharing in 12 strange games. Thank you, guys. Thank you for letting me be a part of that and watching your approaches to these games. It was wonderful. The second tier would be those brave enough to not only play these games, but put their name on the scoreboard. And I actually made a typo because Adrian should be under here. He did more than stream. He put his name on the scoreboard. And while the scoreboard is more of a something on the side and really not the main focus of the dozen is really about saying goodbye to all your other games and just sticking with some. It's very exciting to watch the scoreboard, and it's also very harrowing. It's very tough over the 28 days of the season to go to bed and wonder, am I going to wake up? Am I going to wake up and see my score's been threatened? It's not easy. It could be, being competitive can be very emotional, and it may seem silly to some of you. But you can get invested in this. So I want to thank the people who populated the scoreboard and really tried their best to, make a showing. Zadrian is definitely a part of that. Ex Mortis, X, you got to give serious cred and kudos to X because not only was he on the board, he went on the board first. And that can be something that some people are intimidated by. To just put their scores on the board. You can be afraid that someone else is going to blow it out of the water. But X, he's not trying to stay in the shadows and just get in there in the last minute. He wants to play a good, clean game, and I can really respect that. So, X Mortis, thank you so much for hitting that scoreboard. The morning after kill, almost on the other side of the spectrum of Ex Mortis's approach. After morning kill, the morning after kill will just grind and try and think of any way he could just kind of, keep his opponents guessing. Very interesting to see these two approaches, but I'm equally fascinated by both of their approaches. I to the scoreboard. It's very, very fun. X is out of Colorado. Morning After Kill is out of Michigan. It's just fascinating to see, different people around the country, how they approach the scoreboard. And of course, Count Pupper and Conqueror Worm. Conqueror Worm we haven't seen much of, but he has gone up on the scoreboard very late and is making things interesting, especially for Yu-Gi-Oh! And Count Pupper hitting up pinball. So guys, thank you so much. And there are a couple other people on the scoreboard, but I think their real challenge is what puts them in the final tier, which is the pilgrimage itself, which is what I go on. I put scores on the board, but I'm not necessarily in the running because I make the scoreboard. I determine what objectives there are. So my real challenge is not only making sure that people have what they want to go for there, but also, again, it's all about sticking to the 12 games, saying goodbye to all the other games, saying goodbye to the arcade games here in the Galleon. It's a rough journey, and it's something we've dubbed this season as the pilgrimage. And that's the real spirit of the dozen. So I really want to thank and recognize newcomers Milton and World of Rogue. Milton is all the way out in the UK. Rogue from Parts Unknown. They really went in all in on this season. It was very fascinating to see the highs and lows that we all experience going through this. It's not easy. It's not all roses and candy when you hit week 3. Trust me, I've been there. And I also want to thank Popo and Duck for coming back and making some really great experiences on his stream. And it was really nice to see him playing and sticking to the dozen, just like old times. So thank you for that. And of course, Fodub, who's been in the game for 3 seasons. He is a major player on the scoreboard. And as admirable as that is, it's even more admirable that he sticks to that pilgrimage. And of course, to B-Boy J, all the way out in France. Thank you. Thank you so much for always being there with a bright message and enthusiasm. And it was great to have you on this journey. There are 2 days left in the dozen. It's the 25th. I guess that's 3 days. So there's one more weekend. To those of you on the scoreboard, you better get dirty! Because come the final minute of the 27th, that's when all the submissions are in. And then the 28th, we look at tiebreakers. And that's when we determine who will go down in history as being the best in each of the 12 selected games. And for those of you on the pilgrimage, we have 3 more days, my friends. 3 more days until the gates open and the vast digital world is our playground once again. Thank you for going down this road with me. To the rest of you, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. So, until next time. How I gonna do the fair Spanish maidens? How I gonna do, here ladies of Spain? For we received orders for to play through the dirty dozen. And lo, nevermore shall we see ye again. Hypercell Tactics for the PlayStation 2. I'm coming home, baby. Keep your powder dry.